On the 20th of April, 1889, a boy was born in Austria. His parents were Klara and Alois. The boy was to be named Adolf Hitler. I traveled to Linz, Austria, where Hitler spent much of his childhood, to visit some of the important sites where Hitler grew up. What's the story, and how did he become the bloodiest dictator that humanity has ever seen? This is the story about where Adolf Hitler grew up. I want to point out that this mini documentary is purely out of history interest and for educational purposes. I took the bus from Linz city towards Leonding on a warm afternoon in August to find out more about Hitler's childhood. In November of 1898, Alois Hitler acquired a house in Leonding outside Linz for 7,700 kronas, subsequently relocating his family here by February 1899. The house had a few modest rooms with low ceilings, a compact kitchen, and a pier garden bordered by a cemetery across the narrow village lane. The Hitler's family's residency endured from February 1899 until June 21st, 1905, marked by challenging circumstances. Here you can see the exact house, Michaelbergstrasse 16, in its current condition. After moving to Leonding in February 1899, a 9-year-old Adolf starts to attend a local school, one of two in the village. The building on Michaelsbergstrasse 29 still stands, and it's only a 3-minute walk from their house. In 1900, Alois Hitler entrusts his only son to the Realschule in Linz. A young boy spends an hour every day covering a 5-kilometer distance to his new school in the city. After failing to adapt, Adolf Hitler paid less and less attention to his study and is kept for another year with low grades and a bad record. Within a period between 1902 and 1903, Adolf was the only child in his class who was exempted from paying annual fees due to dire financial conditions of his family. Despite his underachievement, Adolf Hitler finally gets access to the big school library. In 1904, due to his sustained bad study performances, young Adolf leaves the Realschule in Linz. This is the former Realschule on the street Steingasse 6, and it is nowadays a hotel. I went inside to see if anything was left from the school days, but I only found the staircase to look original. We go back to Leonding and the Gasthaus Stiefler. In the early hours of January 3rd, 1903, Alois Hitler was sitting and drinking wine on his favorite leather sofa in his favorite restaurant called Gasthaus Stiefler. He suddenly felt worse and died in the same spot because of pulmonary hemorrhage. Alois Hitler was 65 years old, and he was buried in the local cemetery 30 meters away from his own house. Adolf and his mother Klara stays in the house in Leonding until June 1905, when they move into Linz. In the early years of the 20th century, this cathedral, known as Alterdom or Ignatiuskirche, was the main Christian church in Linz. At the age of 15, Adolf Hitler experienced the ceremony of confirmation here and was anointed as a Catholic. He has also made a drawing of the Alterdom, which remains until now. Adolf Hitler is now 16 years old and has become an admirer of theater. The local Landestheater at the time had a diverse list of productions, including Mozart, Schiller, Strauss, and Wagner. Standing room tickets were cheap, and young Adolf Hitler was able to visit frequently. Hitler was a passionate admirer of Wagner. After some of the performances in Landestheater, a 16-year-old young man marched within his room, singing, full of emotions and ideas. Hitler even made some sketches of his views of the design for the building of the Landestheater. Dr. Eduard Bloch was born in 1872. After completing military service and being assigned to Linz, Dr. Bloch settled down here. 2 years later, in 1901, he managed to initiate his own doctor's practice on Landstrasse 12 on the first floor of a marvelous building in Baroque style. The local medical doctor Eduard Bloch played a significant role in the life of the Hitlers, treating them, sometimes free of charge, in view of the family's poor economic situation. His first encounter with Hitler took place in 1904, when Adolf, then a young boy, fell seriously ill in the lungs and was bedridden. Later, however, Dr. Bloch denied having treated Hitler for anything but minor ailments, and described him as neither robust nor sickly. At some point, he even stated that Hitler had never suffered from any illness at all. Nonetheless, it is a known fact that Dr. Bloch did treat Hitler's mother, Klara, who was diagnosed with breast cancer and eventually died on December 21st, 1907. Because of the family's poor economic situation, Dr. Bloch charged the Hitlers minimal fees and sometimes even waived them completely, for which Adolf, then 18 years old, granted him everlasting gratitude. It is to be noted that Dr. Bloch was an ethnic Jew. We go back to Leonding and the cemetery where Klara and Alois Hitler is buried. The gravestones are removed since 2012 to reduce attraction from modern admirers of Nazis and extremists, but you can easily find the empty spot where the graves are. After the annexation of Austria into Germany in March 1938, Adolf Hitler, as the Chancellor and Führer, visited Leonding on March 12. History preserved a rare photo of Hitler who lays flowers on the graves of his parents. We are back in central Linz, and this is the old city hall, in German Altes Rathaus. It is of importance because it was here Adolf Hitler, after the annexation of Austria, was greeted with jubilation by locals in the city of his youth, announced from the balcony of the Rathaus. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more interesting videos on history, destinations, and more.